Botswana Central Bank has raised interest rate by 51 basis points to 1.65%. And we're going to start from Botswana, which is Africa's leading diamond producer, but is the country still a poster boy of political stability in sub-Saharan Africa? That's a question. I have this question and a few others around South Africa's naughty energy load shedding and the recent flooding for my guests in Johannesburg. Here is Chris Hart, the Executive Chairman at Impact Africa Investment. Many thanks for making the time on the show tonight. Chris, good to see you again.
No, thank you very much. I do appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much. Back and looking fresh from Botswana, from Gaborone. Tell me, what's the latest in the political and economic environment in Botswana? That's one of Africa's leading mining country, a whole lot of diamonds. Diamonds are forever. You got some? My friend.
No, I don't have some, unfortunately, but yeah, Botswana, as you say, is one of the leading economies in Africa, just simply in terms of just how they've managed to sustain growth and improve the general prosperity of the country. And the country really is, it is still growing. And I think the pillars that allowed it to grow, and that's things like the rule of law and a combination of domestic stimulation and protection policies combined with an openness to trade with the rest of the world, to develop industry locally. I think the combination has really served them well. The concern, of course, is that Botswana is still a very peaceful country, and one can go there with a high degree of confidence. The rule of law is strong, both in the urban areas and also rural. You don't have problems in rural areas of lawlessness, for instance, which you sometimes see that disparity. You're seeing that in South Africa, where there's rural breakdown of law and order. But the spat between the former president and the current president is a concern, because it does appear as though that there's a bit of lawfare going on, if I could say that, which is always a concern when one uses the law and legal system to actually take on political opponents, and that is a concern, because that will just take the edge off Botswana's example as a leading light an economy. The last election there were concerns around the last election as well, and good elections are also a critical foundation of the rule of law. But nevertheless, we've still got a lot of confidence in Botswana, and Botswana, I think, will continue to boom for a long time to come. It's got, as I say, the platform is absolutely fantastic. In South Africa, the concern... Yeah, sorry.
Yes, it's all good, because I'm sure when you folks sit in South Africa, you're looking at Botswana and vice versa. If so, one of the biggest economies and more stable politically within the Southern African development community, even the wider COMESA. But again, if you talk about the biggest economy within the region and, of course, in Africa, which is South Africa, the recent load shedding by Eskom, I'm sure you're back in the country and you're asking yourself what's going on. Is the power electricity situation getting better anytime soon, Chris?
No. It looks like Eskom, that's the electricity utility, is really suffering from fundamental core problems. Their system is not stable, and the reason for that is lack of maintenance and looting of the entity over the past almost 2 decades now. Has left this a shell of its former self in that sense. And so what's happening is that things can be okay, and then there's unscheduled breakdowns that occur, and then you have to impose load shedding. They look at it, they try and say, can we, how can we get out of this? The last time we went to stage 4, we've been to stage 6, and basically all a stage is 1 megawatt shed from the system, that has to be saved. So when one looks at Eskom's installed capacity. They're running at less than, roughly about half their capacity, and they can't keep that going. And that is, of course, a concern when you could say it's only about a third of their capacity that can be even, regarded as reliable, and that is being generous. And the problem of the instability of the network is that if the whole system trips, right, it could be days or weeks before you can get the system even running on a shadow of itself, and that's the risk that South Africa faces. And of course, because the grid is actually not, it's not isolated, it would affect the neighbouring countries like Namibia and Botswana and maybe even Mozambique and Zimbabwe, and that's the whole the problem. It doesn't just get contained within South Africa.
Yeah, so with these Eskom's load shedding is also the problem around the fuel supply and pricing. Our business is adjusting to the new normal, if I may use that phrase. It's not normal, by the way, but we say it's the new normal.
No, exactly. And sometimes we tolerate abnormality as normal when it goes on for too long. At this stage, there is the opportunity opening up is in fact in alternative electricity supply, such as solar, wind, and even bio energy sources that are around. But those can never compensate for the full base load that we face. And so we still have to get our coal-fired power stations running, on a better reliability and a more sustainable path. I think also the number of power stations are run beyond their scheduled lifespan, and there should actually they're about 2 or 3 power stations behind in terms of setting it up, and the 2 newest ones are still running very suboptimally, and it took it was way over schedule in terms of the timeline and also the cost of setting the latest power stations up. And as I say, they're still not running fully. So we probably need to do 2 or 3 power station build at this stage, and it will have to be coal because that's what we've got as a resource. And of course, we've signed international protocols which makes all this very difficult. Our energy mix is changing. We are seeing a lot more solar and wind being installed, but we still need the coal working.
Yeah, you need the coal working. In the middle of all this was the KwaZulu-Natal flooding. How normal? How is life returning for folks, for businesses, and everyone around the KwaZulu-Natal province after that very flood havoc? Bring us up to speed at the moment. I'm sure the waters the waters receded. Folks beginning to count the cost. What is it all looking like down there at this very important economic and business hub for South Africa?
Well, we're seeing a familiar pattern. In the riots that we had last year, the government really let society down. In fact, they were almost complicit in the riots. And it was really the private sector that got the province up and running, and just basic things like bread supplies back on a stable footing. With the flooding that's occurred, we're seeing again government coming up wanting, government officials looting, stealing, pilfering, whatever words I think the president was using, the relief supplies, and it's, quite tardy in terms of being delivered, and again a private sector that's demonstrated capability and capacity. And I think a lot of the flooding has occurred because of the lack of maintenance of flood water, stormwater drains and that type of thing that have been blocked and remain blocked, which of course has exacerbated the situation. And so the province is getting back on its footing, and I think it's normality is returning quite quickly, but there's still a lot of unaccounted people that are, that the search and rescue teams trying to locate, and there is a human tragedy that's still got to be, those wounds will take much longer time to heal, unfortunately, and hopefully that the lessons are learned, that we can actually get the infrastructure back in order, so that when heavy rains come again, we don't face the problems that we do see. It does set the scene, though, for a very good agricultural season next year, because the dams are full, and the risks that we're seeing in the Eastern Cape, where there's been drought, are receding a little bit, and that does help a bit. But the economic devastation, not that great, because the port is, of course, a critical vital infrastructure, and the floods did slow down the flow of goods that would, and we probably will see that as, on the third quarter GDP growth, or sorry, not third quarter, second quarter GDP growth will probably be adversely affected by these floods.
We thank you so much for those updates on South Africa and Botswana. Very tragic situation there with the flooding in KwaZulu-Natal, and our hearts and mind with those who have lost their loved ones there as well. Thank you so much, Chris Hart, Executive Chairman at Impact Africa Investment in Johannesburg.